Strikes, big or small, call Damage Control Services. Call me, 352-817-6574.
Your home is safe, or is it? AA Lock, Dock, and Security. The name has been a staple in Ocala since 1985. Do you have the right equipment in place to have peace of mind when you are at home or away? AA Lock, Dock, and Security has the right people to install and monitor your home or business. Call today for a free on-site security analysis. Call 867-1965. AA Lock, Dock, and Security, 219 Northwest 10th Street, 867-1965.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala!
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Monday morning. Nice looking day. We have the same subject that I told you we were going to speak of, just a different talent, a different guest is what I should say. Christopher White is on the phone. Dr. Ann Hendershot is not. We're still speaking about the book. It's called Renewal: How a New Generation of Faithful Priests and Bishops is Revitalizing the Catholic Church. And before we say hello to Christopher, I wanted to tell him a thought on this. Whenever you would hear a story about somebody who was a religious leader having an affair or having something that you wouldn't want to think about a priest or a religious leader being involved in, right? Whether it's gambling or sex, or some illicit sex or something. Everybody's aghast. Just, oh man, I can't believe that. If you were to hear that somebody like the founder of what do you call it, like a naked magazine or something? What's that guy? Larry Flint, the guy who had the Hustler magazine, right?
Yeah.
If you found out that he was having an affair, nobody would care, right? I mean, he could do all the affairs in the world, nobody would care. And I think sometimes the world at large likes to point out when there's a priest in the news for having done something bad. Even though 99.9% of all priests are going to be the straight and narrow and be good, that it's that 0.1%, and I'm just using those numbers randomly, that I think the media sometimes eats it up. It's almost like they enjoy tainting the Catholic Church or religion in general. Do you think I'm right?
I think so. I concur with what you're saying. Yeah.
So it's not surprising to me to know that there probably are more priests, and every priest I know has probably never engaged in anything like that. And by the way, I'm not just mentioning priests for the sake of focusing on Catholicism, but also the rabbis I know. I can't imagine any of the rabbis I know being involved with any of that. And,
no.
And not that they would be on. We're all human, Christopher White is our guest. He's the Director of Education and Programs at the Center for Bioethics and Culture. He's a journalist. He's a contributor to the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Catholic World Report, the National Catholic Register, and the book, again, is called Renewal: How a New Generation of Faithful Priests and Bishops is Revitalizing the Catholic Church. And Christopher White. Good morning, Chris.
Thanks, Larry. Good morning. Thanks, Robin. Glad to be with you.
Where are you? Where are you right now?
I'm based in New York City.
Oh, okay. So you've worked with USA Today. You've worked with the Wall Street Journal. Sometimes those are the publications that will often kind of eat up this kind of stuff. They like when there's a bad news, right?
Right. Sometimes the mainstream media or the nightly news, whatever you're watching, they're eager to tell a story of sort of the decline of religion in general. Specifically, Catholicism is an easy target.
Right.
If that's all you're hearing, sort of in the mainstream papers, nightly news, you're going to think that the Catholic Church is dying, that its priests are just getting old, and that there aren't new young men eager to replace them. But that's actually not at all the case, and our book, Renewal, is the optimistic sort of tale and evidence of a church that is revitalizing. It's growing. In fact, there's a 20-year high of ordination rates to the Catholic priesthood, which is very good news for most Catholics that, unfortunately, they're not being told.
Oh, really? And it's too soon, I guess, to say whether the new Pope is having an effect on that. But what is your thoughts on that notion that the new Pope is kind of liberal in a way? Does that positioning that he and I don't mean liberal in the typical sense of the word, but he's more liberal than his predecessors. Do you think that's going to help as far as recruiting new young men to become priests?
Well, there's certainly with Pope Francis. He's different from his predecessors in his his style. He's kind of a loose cannon in some respects, but I think there's a real sort of a method to his madness. As Cardinal Dolan said yesterday on NBC's Meet the Press, that he's a sharp man and he knows what he's doing, and I think he's trying to use the media to his advantage to keep the focus on the church, to keep people sort of asking questions and interested in what's going on. So, I mean, I think in terms of matters of faith and doctrine, he's very much in agreement with his predecessors. But in terms of attracting young men to the priesthood, it's too early to tell how that will affect the priesthood. But I guarantee you, 5 years from now, we're going to see even more interest in the priesthood than ever before, because of the joy and sort of hope that Pope Francis has brought to the Catholic Church and the rest of the world. One early evidence would be this past summer in Rio in Brazil, where Pope Francis went down there for World Youth Day, which is, in fact, the largest youth festival in the world. You had over 3.2 million young people, 3.2, really potential priests and nuns that were there, just sort of, electric, with energy. And so I think that type of momentum will continue to build, and 5-10 years down the line, we'll be able to sort of trace what some might call the Francis effect, where his sort of papacy has been a direct contributor for the growth and revitalization of Catholicism. But it's a movement that I think started, both under the past two popes, Pope John Paul II and Pope Benedict XVI.
So do you think there's any chance that the church is going to allow the priests to marry? Do you think that would curb all of the things that are happening now?
I have to be honest. I don't think there will be a chance that the priest will marry. The celibacy requirement for priests is unique to the church, and contrary to most popular opinion, that's not a deterrent for young men when they're considering the priesthood. Two major studies were done on priests over the last decade, and found that over 90% of priests said that the celibacy requirement has been a special gift to them and allowed them to actually, succeed better in their ministry, being able to dedicate more of their attention to their parish, to those in need. And so when you look at those considering the priesthood, that's really not a deterrent at all for them in considering the priesthood.
Man, I'd be so distracted if I had committed to celibacy. I don't know how I could. I don't know how they do it. I mean, hearing what you say, I guess that's a special person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's a special calling, and we Catholics believe that if you're called to the priesthood, you're going to be given a special grace to accept that. So.
Do you know the priest that was at the World Trade Center? He was with the fire department, and he died of a heart attack trying to help with the recovery. He was much beloved, and he was also openly gay. But yet, as a priest, he was celibate. And I remember thinking, well, how are you gay if you're celibate? I mean, how are you? And I guess he meant in his heart. I guess what he meant. I'm just guessing that if he wasn't a priest, he'd be with guys. I don't know. Mm-hmm. What are you thinking on that, Chris? I know we went on a tangent there, but.
Sure. Well, I don't know the specific circumstance. I know that story, but I don't know the specific circumstances regarding his ministry. But I think it was probably something to do with the fact that while he might experience sort of same-sex attraction, he wasn't acting on those desires.
Yeah, that's what I got.
He chose to live deliberately a celibate life. Which is as a priest, that balanced celibacy, is something that he should live up to and affirm, regardless of his orientation.
Okay, and Pope Francis recently said, I think, and correct me if I misunderstood the news, but it sounded like he said that while he wouldn't be in favor of gay marriages, he would have no problem with civil unions.
Well, that news report has been a bit twisted, and in fact, the Vatican spokesperson shortly thereafter held a press conference to clarify that. He didn't say that he was in favor. He did not endorse civil unions.
Oh, okay.
He did say was that we have to look at sort of why those states, certain states have adopted civil unions, and understand sort of the root causes, what's going on there. And for me, I don't think it was at all an endorsement of civil unions, but rather something to the effect of we have to understand why there's this real shift away from traditional marriage, and let's kind of reclaim that. Let's look and let's realize that marriage is an essential and fundamental building block of society, and sort of ask ourselves as a church pastorally, how do we address this situation? And it's not by any means his effort to sort of give a nod to sort of the gay rights movement. Instead, I think it's an effort to kind of reclaim the traditional family and say that we've got to do a better job of promoting and defending it. I think that those comments have gotten taken out of context quite gravely.
So a priest who commits to celibacy, is he allowed to live with somebody but just have no sex? Whether it's a man?
No. Most priests actually that are living celibate lives are living sort of at their parish, at their church, maybe with other priests that are also serving that same church. But most priests, live alone. They're not in active relationships. They're dedicating their attention and their ministry on those that they're serving.
Okay, I want to be fair to the book because I'm asking questions that may or may not be part of the book. So let's try to refocus our attention to the book. The book is called Renewal: How a New Generation of Faithful Priests and Bishops is Revitalizing the Catholic Church. Christopher White is our guest. Your co-author is Ann Hendershot, who we were announcing earlier was going to be on the air with us. So you and she wrote the book together.
We did. We've been working on it for the past 2 years, and really what we've done is, when the sexual abuse crisis in the Catholic Church came to light in 2002, so much of the news media criticism kept saying, the Catholic Church is never going to be able to attract new priests. It's going to essentially die or fundamentally change the way it is, and the only way the Church will ever attract new priests is if it removes its opposition to abortion and same-sex marriage. And in fact, that's quite the opposite of the case. What we found is in the areas where the church is most orthodox and most willing to defend the church teaching, to defend the right to life, to defend the traditional family, that actually is what's attractive because it's countercultural. And that's what inspires young men to become priests, because they want to actually be different from the rest of the world, and they want to inspire others to do the same. So that's kind of the essence of the book, is showing that, actually what wins out time and time again is sort of truth. And when the church when those in the church sort of embrace that, that's going to be attractive.
So are the trends that you and Anne wrote about worldwide, or are they country specific? Or do we have the same story here in this regard as they do in Europe?
So that's a great question. The focus of our book is in the church in the United States.
Okay.
So that's the focus of of the book. However, we do make some comparisons to Europe, and the church in the United States is very much stronger here than it is in Europe. So we do think we kind of offer a model of what some of the nations in Europe could benefit from to revitalize the church. In the same way that we here in the U.S. are learning a lot from the churches in Latin America and Africa that are just thriving, both in terms of priests.
Oh, really?
And in terms of so there's a lot that we've learned and continue to learn from them that benefit us and the church worldwide.
Yeah, I would imagine, and this maybe sounds like I'm stereotyping, but it seems like the Hispanic population, the African American population, might be adhering to their religious beliefs maybe more so than the Caucasian. I don't know.
No, that's sort of
not true.
Instinct is definitely backed up by data. Folks in sort of the southern hemisphere, being Latin America, Africa, they certainly have a deeper deeper practice of the faith. They're definitely more committed. They tend to pass on the faith more and better to future generations, and we have a lot to learn from them. They're in many times sending missionaries to us, where it used to be the opposite case.
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah.
So do you think maybe if more bishops made the rounds of the different Catholic churches in their a designated calling area, do you think that they would be able to attract more people into the church and also into the being a nun or a priest?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the bishops, while being in a position of important leadership, they have to have an ear to the ground, and they have to have a real ability to know what's going on. And it can't just be information gathering. They have to be out there sort of inspiring people to the priesthood and to religious life. And so what we found in our book is that there are a great number of sort of newer bishops throughout the country that are really doing terrific jobs of making vocations and recruitments to the priesthood and religious life a real priority for them. Here in New York, we have Cardinal Timothy Dolan, who's a very charismatic leader. He's constantly in the news. He's constantly going around. He's a very public figure and really likable, jovial fellow, full of charisma. And he's constantly going out after young men, trying to sort of win them over to the priesthood. That's a type of model that really does work. And it's a charisma that's rooted in sort of deep convictions about the truth of Christianity. And when we have bishops that are out there and understand what's going on and aren't tucked away in their offices, that's a model for success.
It's interesting to think of somebody at the young age that it sounds like you're referring to, being able to focus. I don't know. It seems like sometimes we become wiser as we get older, but I guess there are a special few who have that wisdom at a young age. You sound kind of young, Chris, and you sound pretty wise yourself.
Yeah. No, I'm 26, and 26, which is actually the age of a lot of new priests, priests that are starting their training. So while priests can be ordained at any time in life almost, what we're seeing is really over the past few years, the past 10 years in particular, the age of new priests getting younger and younger, whereas in previous generations, it was the mid-30s is when some people would sort of become priests.
I wonder.
We're seeing that getting younger and younger, and there are a number of factors to that. But it's a good sign. I think it's a sign of real health in the church. The young people are,
it makes sense.
being attracted.
Did you and Ann explore the challenges that a young priest would have with a congregation, especially if there was not an elder priest in that church?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Our research really did not focus too much on that, but just from my own experience, I know that is a reality that so many, young priests are, they go to the seminary and then they're sort of tasked, and thankfully most of them are placed in parishes where there are older priests to kind of guide them and nurture them along the way. But there are real challenges to priests. Obviously, the chief job of a priest is a spiritual role, serving his congregation. But there are other challenges as well. In fact, that priests have to, in many cases, have to be the ones that are financially responsible for the parish, for the upkeep of the church. Sometimes these churches have schools attached to them, and so there's almost an administrative business role that some of these priests have to play, and that in itself is a challenge as well. So I think what key is, with these young priests, placing them in parishes and in churches that have sort of an older figure that they can look up to, learn from, and really almost serve as a mentor to them in their initial years. And I think that very much is the model, but one that we certainly want to encourage.
When I was growing up, each Catholic church had a Catholic school, and they would run up, from kindergarten to 12th grade, and then there were a lot of young men that decided to enter the seminary after that, so they just had that lateral move from a Catholic school to the seminary. But now that Catholic schools, as well as Lutheran schools and different denominations, are far and few between, do you think that has caused problems with the decrease of people wanting to be priests and nuns, or are the Catholic churches bringing into their Catholic communities different activities?
No, you're right. I had an older gentleman say to me once, he said, I spent my entire life going to Catholic school, and around age 15, 16, it was just expected that you would at least give some consideration to the priesthood. It was, almost a built-in recruitment process, as you hinted at, and that's something that, as the decline of Catholic education has sort of gone the way it has over the past few decades, that really we've lost that kind of natural feeder directly from the Catholic schools to the Catholic seminaries. So that's something that the church has to kind of make up for, in a sense, which basically means most parishes, most pastors have to do a better job of looking in their own congregation and seeing who the young people are and encouraging them to consider the priesthood, as well as Catholic families. Most Catholic families traditionally have had a nun or a priest somewhere down the line, and that's kind of lapsed over the past few years. And so I think it's up to Catholic parents, if they're worried about the priesthood, to at least be open to letting their children consider that as a possibility for them.
We are privileged in a way by having a talk show to be able to speak to different people from all over the world and with different occupations, and just focusing on the priests and the religious leaders for a second. The one that I wanted to focus on just for this part of this conversation is when we've spoken to priests or rabbis or Baptist ministers or whoever that also had been chaplains in the military, especially during wartime. They perform a function. They provide a service, is maybe a better way to say it, for everybody, regardless of their religion. And so a Baptist minister would have to pray with a Jewish soldier or a Catholic soldier or whatever, Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how they all come out of that, whether they're a Baptist minister or a Catholic priest, a Jewish rabbi, with almost a better grasp of, I don't know if the word respect is applicable, but I'll use it and maybe we can amend it later. But they have a respect for the other religions that they weren't directly a part of. Does that make sense?
No, you're absolutely right. I think, anyone going through sort of any type of military action, whether it be war or deployment, when you kind of band together, and that's true for the soldiers, but it's also true for the chaplains, be it Jewish rabbis, Catholic priests, Baptist ministers, across the board. And in those situations, there's this real effort, I think, to focus more on the things that unite them and then the things that divide them. And so I think they, like you said, they emerge from that with a real sort of bond of unity and respect for faith, concern for each other's own lives, for the families that are involved, and that it kind of is it levels the playing field in a sense.
You write for a variety of publications. If you were writing the same article, would you put it in the Wall Street Journal and the National Catholic Register, or would you modify the way you write depending on the paper that you're writing for?
Yeah, that's a good question. Most of the time, I depending on the publication, I cater to my audience. So if I'm writing for a secular publication such as USA Today, Wall Street Journal, something like that, I never assume that the reader has much familiarity with the Catholic Church. However, if I'm writing for a specifically Catholic publication, you can begin to use more sort of insider's ball game sort of language, the type of sort of terms and phrases that most Catholics are familiar with. So you do have to sort of custom tailor your article to the audience that you're writing for.
Again, Christopher White is our guest, and the book he is the co-author of is called Renewal: How a New Generation of Faithful Priests and Bishops is Revitalizing the Catholic Church. And he wrote the book with Ann Hendershot. Who's the audience for the book? Who do you expect to be reading the book?
We've had sort of, I'd say, a few surprising audiences. We have some audiences, I'd say, sort of the faithful traditional Catholics that just want to know what's going on in the church today. They just want to have a better understanding of their faith. We've also had sort of just kind of some secular critics that are interested in sort of an assessment of American Catholicism from a purely sort of intellectual point of view. And then we've also had a lot of sort of evangelical Christians who have seen, the Catholic Church has worked, across the aisle with evangelicals a lot over the past few decades on issues regarding marriage and life. And I think it's built mutual respect. And so we've had a lot of interest from sort of evangelical and Protestants that just want to better understand the church and see how we can partner together as we sort of face these common sort of threats. So it's written just for the, you don't have to be a Catholic to read it. So it's written for a very broad and general audience.
Yeah. And just to kind of go back to the core of how we started this, I've often thought this, that when hearing the story of Jesus and hearing the story of how the disciples were not perfect, I think every one of them has something mentioned in the Bible where the disciple's not perfect. Judas being the most imperfect one because
right.
he was the one who betrayed him. But I would never be Judas. I would never be the guy who betrayed a friend. But I could easily be the guy who said, "No, I don't know him." I mean,
Yeah.
Peter's the one who denied, or Thomas. I could be Thomas. I could be the guy who says, "Yeah, he didn't come back."
Yeah,
I
that's
could.
true.
So I guess, I mean, if we're going to look at the priests of today as having, we've got problems because we're all human. Well, that was illustrated in the very first story.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the apostles are the greatest examples of the fact that all sort of saints were one-time sinners. The spiritual life for all of us is not about instant perfection, because I myself am chief among sinners, but it's about sort of recognizing
I don't know.
The chief.
The chief.
It's a recognition that Christ, makes us whole, and so whether you're just a layperson or a priest, it's a recognition that we're all in this together, and that our ultimate goal is holiness, and that's what we should all work toward.
Don't tell your mother that you're the chief of the sinners. She's not going to want to hear that.
Do you think that within our lifetime we'll see the different religions come together and at least try to respect the belief of each other, so we could try to live in harmony?
I mean, I don't think we'll ever come to the point where all divisions will be eliminated, nor should we in some respects. But certainly, respect and recognizing the sort of dignity and worth of all individuals, regardless of whatever religious beliefs they possess, is something that we should advocate for and aim toward.
Christopher, don't put that on your business card, Chief of Sinners.
No.
He's going to take that.
I mean, you got some nice credentials going for you. Just leave that one off the business card.
I will heed your advice on that one.
Okay, well, thank you for being on the air. The book, again, is Renewal. Do you want to tell the listeners about a website, how to get the book?
Sure. The book is Renewal, How a New Generation of Faithful Priests and Bishops is Revitalizing the Catholic Church. You can find it on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, any Catholic retailer, or EncounterBooks.com. Encounter Books is the publisher. So.
Okay, excellent. EncounterBooks.com. Robin actually already put that website on the WOCA guest list for today, so those listening, if you're driving and you can't write it down, it's easy to find just by going to our site. Christopher White, again, the book is Renewal. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Robin.
Fun interview. We'll take a little break and be right back.
Habitat for Humanity of Marion County is a ministry dedicated to improving lives by providing affordable and decent housing. Help them help others by visiting the Habitat for Humanity Ocala Restore at 926 Northwest 27th Avenue. To schedule a donation, give us a call at 401-0075 and we'll come pick it up. For more information, visit ocalarestore.org. Habitat for Humanity of Marion County. Building homes, building hope, building community.
Are you wasting hundreds or thousands of dollars on termite retreat fees? If you're not with Turner Pest Control, you probably are. Turner Pest Control offers the industry's only termite and pest control package that never charges retreat fees, ever. You can get started today for only $99. This is a value of $500 or more. This includes treatments, installation of monitoring stations, quarterly pest control, and a lifetime guarantee, all for an unbelievable low $99. Even if you have another pest control provider, visit turnerpest.com to find out how you can avoid paying those high termite retreat fees.
Your heating and air conditioning unit sure will get a workout this season, and you need to make sure it's in tip-top condition. Let Air Ducts Heating and Air give you that peace of mind by knowing your unit will work at its optimum efficiency, saving you time and money. Air Ducts is a full HVAC residential and commercial company. Air Ducts is family-owned and operated, so we treat you the way we want to be treated. Air Ducts also offers discounts for builders and commercial applications. So give us a call today, 352-304-6766. That number again, 352-304-6766. Air Ducts Heating and Air Conditioning.
Hey, Matt, I know Sunrise Automotive does auto stuff, but I need some tires for my truck. Can you recommend someone?
Yes, I can. We do that.
No, I mean, I need them installed and balanced and all that.
Yep, we do that.
Well, my son needed his windows tinted.
Yep, we do that.
I need my seat replaced.
Yep, we do that too.
I need a new roof line, and a new spoiler, and a new trunk.
We can even do that too.
Okay, I get it. I suppose you can also do a radio show too, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, join me every Monday at 10 for auto repair with personal care here on The Source.
Of course you do.
This is a public notice. Local residents can now save thousands of dollars on their next car, truck, or SUV. It's not a tent sale, because no tent is big enough to hold this many cars. It's OcalaForSale.com. Say goodbye to sticker shock. OcalaForSale.com has thousands of vehicles with no stickers at all. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
Hi, I'm Leah Caruso with Strive Rehabilitation, inviting you to join me Thursday at 11 a.m. for Health Matters. Ocala Health and Strive have teamed up to bring you the latest information on good health services available to you right here at home. This vital information will help you make informed decisions about your health. So don't forget to join me here at 11 a.m. Thursday. It's news you can use from Ocala Health, Strive, and your friends here at WOCA.
Here are today's headlines from The Source. WOCA. Florida lawmakers will spend much of the session's second week doing the often grinding work of moving bills through committees. The House, however, also will take up a high-profile package of bills aimed at strengthening laws dealing with sexual predators. Most of the work will happen early in the week. Today, the Senate Gaming Committee will consider a proposal, which is Senate Bill 668, filed by Senator Kelly Stargel of Lakeland, that would seek to clear up questions about a law approved last year that put internet cafes out of business. Additionally, the Senate Criminal Justice Committee will take up a bill filed by Senator Alan Hayes from Umatilla that would allow school principals or superintendents to designate trained employees who could carry guns on school campuses or in district administrative buildings. The Senate Ethics and Elections Committee, meanwhile, will consider a proposal that would make a series of changes in election laws, including directing the creation of an online voter registration system. The Marion County Sheriff's Office is reporting the arrests of 2 juveniles charged with conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder in the second degree. According to a report from the Bureau of Special Investigations, detectives arrested a 13-year-old female and a 15-year-old male yesterday after conspiring to kill the girls' parents. The report states that the male hid in a garage in the female suspect's home along Northwest 55th Place here in Ocala. The female then lured her mother into the garage, where the male suspect cut the mother's throat. While the mother struggled to survive, the girl's father called out after hearing the commotion in the garage. Investigators say the male suspect went into the victim's bedroom and put the knife to the father's throat. The father pleaded with the boy to take his wife to the hospital. The boy reportedly dropped the mother off at the hospital. The mother survived surgery and provided details to investigators. Both suspects are in the Marion County Juvenile Detention Center. Neither has a bond. WOCA, The Source, has chosen to omit the identities of the victims and the suspects due to the suspects' ages. In Mulberry, near Lakeland, a small airplane became entangled in the strings of a skydiver's parachute, sending both crashing to the ground, with both the pilot and the jumper hospitalized with minor injuries. Polk County Sheriff's Office spokeswoman Carrie Eliezer says 87-year-old pilot Sharon Tremblay was doing takeoff and landing maneuvers Saturday in his Cessna at the South Lakeland Airport in Mulberry. On his third landing pass, the wing of his plane became entangled in the strings of 49-year-old Gainesville skydiver John Frost's parachute just above the ground. Frost was flung to the ground and Tremblay's plane nosedived to the surface. Eliezer says neither sustained serious injury, but they went to the hospital. Frost was treated and released. Tremblay was held overnight for observation. The National Transportation Safety Board and FAA are investigating. And a fleet of small drones buzzed the sky near Kennedy Space Center recently, participating in the state's first sponsored demonstration of drone technology. The 21 flights performed during 2 days late last month served as practice for demonstrations Space Florida will lead in May, when the drone industry's biggest annual conference will be held in Orlando. 3 Florida companies flew quadcopters, hexcopters, and fixed-wing vehicles ranging in size from roughly 3 to 15 pounds, with wingspans up to about 3 feet. The activities tested various procedures and safety protocols, in addition to giving the unmanned aircraft systems, also known as UAS, a chance to experiment with sensors. The 3 companies taking part at their own expense were Angel Eyes of Naples, Elevated Horizons of Orlando, and Prioria Robotics of Gainesville. They flew 7 aircraft systems and also operated ground-based vehicles. And those are the headlines from The Source, WOCA 96.3 FM and 1370 AM.
Hi, Robin. You look tired.
I am. I've been running all over town.
Why? Why not drive?
I need to get the stupid document notarized.
Well, that's easy. You need personal service.
Duh. That's what I've been looking for.
You need to go see Mark at the Personal Service Center. He can notarize that for you, make copies, fax it wherever, or send it out in the mail. Heck, he can even scan it and email it for you.
Really? Where is he at?
2375 Northeast 25th Avenue, on the corner of Northeast 25th Avenue and 24th Street. You can call him at 789-6683.
Personal Service Center. Thanks, Larry.
Nominate your favorite farm mom. That story coming up on This Land of Ours.
Presenting fresh salsa done Florida style. There's nothing like Florida's fresh, mouth-watering corn, tomatoes, and avocados. With this combination, things are going to get choppy. Then, we spice things up a bit by adding a squeeze of lime to the mix. Perfect. Fresh salsa made with locally grown corn, tomatoes, and avocados. Look for Fresh from Florida products when you shop. Remember, delicious is always served fresh from Florida.
Now in its 4th year, America's Farmer's Mom of the Year program is meant to highlight and showcase the role women play in agriculture. Monsanto Corporate Marketing and Communications Director Jessica Simmons says they support America's farmers overall, but realizes women in the ag industry aren't recognized very often.
They do so much on farms and in their communities, as well as 4-H and FFA and all those types of things. We want to make sure that they get recognized as well.
The America's Farmer's Mom of the Year program is focused on women who work in agriculture for a living. Simmons says from livestock to row crops and more. As she notes that there are many amazing farm moms across the country, and they're often just excited to be nominated.
It is so gratifying to receive a nomination, and we typically share those with anyone who's interested to see like sort of what their daughter wrote about them, or their neighbor, or their sister, or stuff like that. And so it's always good to hear that you're appreciated. But I think the other thing that is really exciting about this is that if you win one of our regional awards, you'll receive $5,000, and then the National Farm Mom receives $10,000. So there's a little bit of money involved in it as well, but you know, it's really intended to just celebrate and honor women.
To nominate a mom, just go to americasfarmers.com before March 31st and fill out a 300 words or less nomination form and click Submit. Julie McPeak with Southeast AgNet.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Life jackets save lives. Wear it, Florida. Sunshine and clouds this afternoon. High 80 to 84. Tonight, mostly clear skies. Low 54 to 60. Mostly sunny Tuesday. High 80 to 84. Wednesday, clouds and sun with showers and a thunderstorm. High 80 to 84. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Edie Robb.
We're not just the horse capital of the world. Ocala Marion County is now the hoops capital, too, thanks to the 2013 national champion CF Patriots basketball team. The McDonald Allstate Agency brings you the reigning kings of the court all season long right here on WOCA. Coach Tim Ryan and the Patriots look to defend their national crown and get set to host the state tournament this coming spring. The McDonald Allstate Agency brings you CF basketball only on WOCA, The Source.
Today in Florida Ag News from the Southeast AgNet, we have Frost Burke with the Commissioner's Spotlight.
Joining us by phone is Florida's Commissioner of Agriculture, Adam Putnam. It seems every day we hear about the natural gas revolution happening right here in the United States. What's Florida doing to make sure our businesses are benefiting from this abundant domestic energy source?
Well, one important thing that we've done is to create a program that provides rebates for the purchase and conversion of private and public fleet vehicles to run on natural gas. We just opened the program on January the 7th, and the response was tremendous. $6 million is available to fund this program this year, and we'll keep accepting applications until that fund is exhausted.
What are the benefits of natural gas fuel?
Well, natural gas is cheaper and cleaner than traditional gasoline. In addition, because it's a domestic source of fuel, converting vehicles to run on natural gas helps reduce our dependence on foreign oil and improves our nation's energy security.
Thanks, Commissioner Putnam. For Commissioner Spotlight, I'm Frost Burke.
Well, the agriculture industry is still closely watching the EPA for any sign of what it might do with the long-proposed Clean Water Act rule, which would define, for permitting purposes, water of the U.S. The rule was sent to the Office of Management and Budget in mid-September for a review, which is supposed to take no more than 90 days. Don Parrish, Senior Director of Regulatory Relations for the American Farm Bureau Federation, thinks this is one of the most significant changes in the Clean Water Act that has ever been contemplated.
It's one of those things where I think they've got to kind of recalibrate, because it does have such far-reaching impacts. I mean, we're all for clean water. We're all for protecting the environment. But this is